Everyone, and thank you for listening to our podcast. My name is Olivia Soave, and I will be your moderator today. And today we will talk about CitySCAPE and TRAPEZE, which are two projects funded by the European Commission under the Horizon 2020 research program. We will discuss how the findings of the TRAPEZE project can be of benefit to a project like CitySCAPE. Now, before I introduce you to our speakers, let me tell you a little more about the ambitions of CitySCAPE and TRAPEZE. And I'll start with the CitySCAPE project. Now, the main objective of this project is to better understand the different cybersecurity dimensions, and in particular, cybersecurity threats of multimodal transport. Now, why is this important? Because in cities across the world, we benefit from truly interconnected passenger transport ecosystems. We travel easily, quickly, and almost everywhere using different modes of transportation, which connects to one another seamlessly. This complex network of interconnected infrastructures eases, however, the propagation of cyber threats. And in addition, the underlying mosaic of fleets, personal handheld devices, and non-standardized data types increase the system's attack surface. So what are the 15 partners of the project working on? In CitySCAPE, the partners are working on characterizing the cyber threats in the ICT multimodal transports, and this analysis will also be extended to the close-by power and financial sector. They will introduce innovative software tools to estimate the threat's propagation in the system. And finally, the project team will develop a modular software toolkit, which can be easily integrated into any multimodal transport system. This toolkit, let me give you a bit more detail on it. It will help to detect suspicious traffic data values and identify persistent threats. It will help evaluate an attack's impact in technical and notably in financial terms. It will combine external knowledge and internally observed activities to enhance the predictability of zero-day attacks. And finally, it will instantiate a networked overlay to circulate informative notifications to CERT authorities and supports their interplay. The CitySCAPE solution and the toolkit will be tested over a timely set of use cases involving ticketing application, cyber fraud, and location data in the regional transport systems of 2 European cities. And their extensive experiments will be conducted to showcase the effectiveness of the solutions. And finally, the findings will steer training sessions of both expert and non-expert audience and shape a strong standardization contribution to security, in particularly labeling protocols. The TRAPEZE project, on the other hand, aims to drive a cultural shift in the protection of the European data economy by weaving trust into its very foundation and reconstructing the concepts of control, transparency, and compliance through technical and methodological citizen-first innovations. Driven by the needs of 3 distinct real-world cases, TRAPEZE will develop technologies which will empower citizens with the necessary tools and expertise to manage their security and privacy and actively contribute to the cyber resilience of the common European data space. It will also develop technologies to enforce the integrity and non-repudiation of citizens' data usage policies and processing across data sources and controllers' borders. It will dynamically acquire citizens' consent and adjust their data policies in real time in response to their changing circumstances. It will protect citizens' online communications and applications running on their personal devices against malicious agents. And finally, it will provide citizens, as well as other relevant stakeholders, which will include controllers, CERTs, CCERTs, and data protection authorities, with a comprehensive overview of trans-border data lineage and flows, as well as proof of legal compliance, even in big data environments. By relying on linked data and blockchain, TRAPEZE will lead the way in putting the often misplaced cutting-edge technologies to practical use and become a lighthouse to European and global initiatives aiming to deliver privacy-aware innovations. Finally, to ensure that citizens of all groups can have an active role in the protection of their data flows, TRAPEZE will place a special emphasis on usability and co-production, involving European citizens directly in the development of its security and privacy-enhancing technologies. Today in our podcast, we will imagine a fourth fancy TRAPEZE use case dedicated to a local public transport company like the one involved in the CitySCAPE project, to highlight how their end users, which are mostly passengers and local public transport companies' employees, can benefit from the solution provided by TRAPEZE. Today, I am very happy to welcome Amedeo D'Arcangelo, Jonathan Langens, and Tobias Eichinger. Amedeo, you are the Enterprise Project Technical Coordinator at Kaspersky Italia. Kaspersky is a global cybersecurity company founded in 1997, and you serve as the main point of contact for the CitySCAPE and TRAPEZE project in Italy. Your main focus in these projects is on training activities which aim to raise the knowledge and skills of cybersecurity and privacy of the passengers in the CitySCAPE case and citizens in the case of the TRAPEZE project. Again, welcome, Amedeo. Jonathan, you are a software architect at TenForce. TenForce is an AI machine learning company that delivers software products. You have a computer science background and focus on semantic technologies and linked data. TenForce is also the coordinator of the TRAPEZE project. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And finally, welcome to you, Tobias. You are a research assistant at the Berlin Institute of Technology. You are currently pursuing a PhD in the field of data science and machine learning. Your research interests include distributed systems, recommender systems, and data protection. The Berlin Institute of Technology is also a partner of the TRAPEZE project. Now, I would like to start with you, Amedeo. Can you tell us a bit more about the privacy needs of passengers and local public transport companies and the use cases that were chosen for the CitySCAPE project?
Olivia. So basically, in CitySCAPE use cases in Genoa and Tallinn, privacy-related issues could be raised from the perspective of both passengers and local public transport companies. In Genoa, an example could be the City Pass subscription system. So basically, since the pass is stored in the passenger's smartphone via the Azienda Mobilità Trasporti mobile app, where Azienda Mobilità Trasporti is the company managing local public transport in Genoa, a data breach can expose passenger data, but also lead to identity theft, and a fraud in the digital subscription system can cause economic damage to the local public transport company, but also can affect privacy of passengers, of course. Another example concerns passengers owning a subscription, where basically they are authorized to access the railway stations managed by Trenitalia and to take trains in the Genoa area without extra charge. So basically, thanks to the digital exchange of data between Azienda Mobilità Trasporti and Trenitalia, they are allowed to access the train stations. So a data breach in this system can generate unpleasant scenarios where passengers with a valid subscription may not be able to enter the station, or conversely, passengers may be admitted without a valid ticket. In Tallinn, On the other side, personally identifiable information could be leaked via the payment validator system, generating economic and reputational damage for the local public transport company, allowing, for example, an attacker who replicates the ticket via a QR code or MiFare Classic to obtain the transport free through a manipulated smart card.
Thank you, Amedeo. Jonathan, I'm turning to you. How can the TRAPEZE project help passengers as data subjects?
Thank you. Yes. Well, before we go to the actual solution that TRAPEZE can give, I was thinking of maybe introducing a key concept that TRAPEZE is also bringing. That would be the TRAPEZE policy language. And the policy language is a formal way of expressing consent, data usage, and controller policies. And they're all expressed in the same way. And TRAPEZE also comes with a subsumption engine or a consent validation engine, which can automatically validate a certain, validate that a policy follows the consent given by a user. And these consents, these users policies, they're expressed as 5 tuples, having the data, the processing, the purpose, and so on. So it's a formal representation of the consent that the user gives. It's machine readable, and like you introduced, it's built on linked data. It's extendable. It can be inspected, and concretely for users from the CitySCAPE project, you can imagine that local transportation companies, they give out subscriptions. They will maybe know where the users are using their subscription, that they're going from point A to B, and so on. They can offer extra services based on the usage of the subscription, on the usage of the individual, and this usage policy allows the citizen to express individually for them what they would allow or what they deem is okay, and maybe they can say, you can use my policy, you can use my data to give me non-commercial information, or you can use my data also to give me more commercial offerings from partners, and so on. It's very customizable. And this compliance engine can for the controller for the data controller can explain what actions for which citizens are valid. It will validate the usage. And with this also comes, since that everything is machine readable, it's formal, it also provides a way, if, for instance, you have a subscription, you sign to the subscription, it's most of the time you have a large legalese document with a lot of terms. If the subscription would change, for instance, another thing that TRAPEZE can offer is that the change can be highlighted within terms of just the change that is happening. Because both documents are formal, the old one and the new one, and it can help the user understand what the differences are in the policies. I think the last part that, well, it's not the last part, but a third way in which TRAPEZE could help is we have a platform where the users can manage their consent, the controllers can manage their policies, but the controller can also enter the usages. And so the user can see why their data has been used, for which purpose, and they can also act on it and then say, okay, I see that you've used, in a far-fetched scenario, my data for animal testing, something like that. That's something you don't want to consent to, and then you can change your policy based on the effective usage. So you have some reactiveness, control, and transparency. That's,
Thank you. So really giving back, as you said, the control to passenger and the transparency on their data and what is being done with them. Thank you. Tobias, I'm interested to hear more about the TRAPEZE project and how it can help local public transport companies as data controllers.
Thank you, Olivia, for this question. First of all, thank you for the invitation to this podcast. Yeah, I mean, Jonathan already tackled, let's say, the side of the data controller, and I want to just shed a light on what Trapeze can bring to, let's say, to the data subjects, the citizens, European citizens for whom this project is. Like the CitySCAPE project and the Trapeze project have a strong focus on empowering. That means its citizens, and the empowerment is very central, not only in European politics. Okay, so I'm not gonna go too deeply into the specifics of, let's say, local public transport providers. That is just one, let's say, specific use case, but perhaps more generally, because like it can be generalized, so it's not specific to that. And what we have to see, I think, with from the data controller perspective, is that, well, people have a lot of, well, they have to provide consent, because most services nowadays are, let's say, data centric. With respect to the CitySCAPE project, if you think of an app with which you want to buy a ticket, then certainly your mobile phone has a lot of personal data, name, your age, your activity, the apps that you install, for instance. That kind of stuff is very sensitive. And in case, let's say, the app that manages the ticketing were to be, let's say, a Trojan horse, or to sniff on your personal data that is in your mobile phone, well, that is kind of bad, right? So a non-technical data subject, like we always assume that data subjects have, let's say, very little technical background as to what is actually happening, and that is some kind of a difficulty, right? Because if you don't know what you're meddling with, then you don't know whether there is something that is actually going wrong, or your data is leaking. And in that regard, it is one thing to have transparency. So Trapeze is like about transparency, and second of all, about control. Okay, and well, transparency and control are two features. Like, you want to see what is happening, right, as a transparency feature, but on the other hand, you also want to control stuff, right? You want to let's say, deinstall a malicious app, for example. And now, like, like Kaspersky, especially Kaspersky, is the perfect partner for that, because they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of know-how, they have a lot of technical expertise to kind of provide the right technical tools to well, make apps more secure. For instance, like the ticketing, like the purchase app for the local public transport providers. So from the perspective of the data subject, it is perhaps not so much convenient to know all the background stuff, right? Because like we all have 99 problems. More problems is not very we don't want it, to put it that way. And if we want to have a look at how we can empower the people, well, it is kind of uncomfortable, right? Because from data subject perspective, there is a lot of information around us, and we have to filter all day, right? So the vision of the Trapeze and the CitySCAPE project as a combination is that we provide in a certain app functionality to make the user more aware of what is happening actually in the background. So for instance, well, there is data leaking. Okay, where is it leaking? That might be of interest. And if you're not like technically versed, for instance, as a, let's say, median, or as a normal non-technical data subject out there, you might want to go to the Trapeze help desk, for instance, and get help as to, well, there is something happening with my phone that is perhaps malicious, perhaps, which is kind of always an indication of you might want to have a look at it. And that's basically it, right? So if you have something that is going wrong, you want to know about it, but it comes at the cost that you actually have to invest time and effort into that. And so that is actually kind of, that can be a benefit for data subjects, right? Because they are more aware due to transparency, and they can actually, if something even criminal might be happening and their security is breached because they install perhaps without knowing any malware, then here Kaspersky can come in and say, well, something is going wrong. We provide you with the technical features to file a complaint, get help on how to get your smartphone fixed. Perhaps you want to just reinstall every app in there, and that's basically it. So from the data subject's perspective, to wrap it up, it's mostly about, well, knowing more about what is happening in the background, and if there is something malicious happening, you get more active, okay? And that's also a benefit for Kaspersky, right? Because if their software is working, that's one thing. But if you have all citizens being more aware of what might be going wrong and just sidestepping, let's say, issues by just like altering or changing their online behavior, or the what they download, or where they get their information on what to do and what not in an app, for example, or if someone just sends a phishing email, for example, well, that's best, right? Because the data subjects themselves already work towards a more secure environment, and that's where TRAPEZE can come in, because TRAPEZE can raise awareness. And so I basically think, from a data subject's perspective, like TRAPEZE and CitySCAPE have a lot of synergies.
Thank you, Tobias. So you said one really important feature is to raise awareness of the data subjects. I think another high-level objective of the project is to raise their actual skills on privacy. So Amedeo, can you tell us a bit more about how concretely the project plans to do this, raising the skills on privacy topics?
Yes. Basically, as Jonathan and Tobias let us understand from their answers, one of the main objectives of the TRAPEZE project is to put citizens back in control. So through the knowledge provision for understanding of privacy risks from one side, and the right tools to make informed choice, to exercise their legal rights, and to report privacy-related incidents from the other side. Why we need that? Because unconscious incompetence is the liability number one in defense against cyber threats, and the human being is the weakest link of the cybersecurity and privacy chain. So the focus of the TRAPEZE training tools included in the TRAPEZE solution is to raise citizen awareness and skills on privacy-related issues by implementing new contents for citizens on privacy topics on two of our training tools that are quite well known in the cybersecurity industry: the Kaspersky Automated Security Awareness Platform and the Kaspersky Gamified Assessment Tool. Plus, we have a third tool implemented by our French partner Ersim, the Open Knowledge Base, included as a solution in TRAPEZE Helpdesk portal that can be used to raise awareness of citizens. Currently, citizens are considered as a target mainly from two perspectives. First, by attackers willing to steal their valuable data, and secondly, by malicious data controllers wishing to take control of their data in a malicious way. It applies also to passengers of local public transportation. So, for example, using digital services like the ones provided by CitySCAPE to handle their multimodal journey, they can be attacked in a similar way that we are basically considering for citizens in the TRAPEZE project. So the TRAPEZE training solutions aim to make citizens, as passengers in the CitySCAPE specific case, consciously competent in knowing and managing the risks related to security and privacy in the digital world. To do that, TRAPEZE is implementing training contents for citizens to make them aware of their rights and obligations deriving from the GDPR as owners of their personal data, as data subjects. And Kaspersky started including these contents in the new versions of the Kaspersky Automated Security Awareness Platform and the Kaspersky Gamified Assessment Tools. It means TRAPEZE would be able to make passengers aware of the rights of the data subject as a natural person, in terms of what happens when the citizen provides his consent to process personal data, for example, to a local public transport company to store his digital subscription. Which rights, access, rectification, erasure, the passenger has versus his or her data. Which communication passengers should expect by the transport company in case of a personal data breach. Furthermore, to lower the barrier do not know where to find the relevant information or have trouble understanding it or applying it in their context, our partners from RSIM are implementing the open knowledge base to provide citizens with explanations, definitions, and pointers to information sources and relevant organizations. In conclusion, these training tools will be available to citizens and passengers through the TRAPEZE Help Desk portal, which will also empower citizens with assistant incident reporting tools.
Olivia, you're on mute, I believe.
My apologies, always at the end. No, so thank you very much, Amedeo. Thank you, Tobias and Jonathan, for this very insightful discussion. To our listeners, I hope you enjoyed the discussion. It's really amazing to see the synergies that exist between the TRAPEZE and the CitySCAPE projects. We hope it will inspire other European projects to collaborate and exchange best practices. Don't hesitate to visit the two projects' websites and to contact the partners for more information. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
Thank you.